Episode 87, read through, The Lonely Machine. We started with the words doohickey, letters, illuminate, black, and shiny. We started with this doodle, which gave us the idea of writing the story of a lonely machine. Here we go. High atop a hill stood a lonely cabin. In this cabin, there was a machine. The machine had been invented by a hermit who missed people more than he cared to admit. He hated writing letters, though, so he invented this machine to do that for him. One day, the hermit went fishing and never returned. Luckily, he had left behind a box of pencils, paper supplies, and stamps. What the hermit had forgotten to give the machine was a doohickey for attaching the stamps to the envelopes. And so the machine wrote and wrote and folded and folded and stuffed letter after letter. A tremendous stack of correspondence stood in the corner. The machine enjoyed writing, so it didn't mind much, but sometimes when the wind was right, the machine would look out the cabin window and imagine its letters flying off into the world. One morning, the machine woke up, picked up a pencil, but found it couldn't write. The pile of letters had toppled over and buried one of its arms. That's it, the machine thought. It dragged itself to the front door and began shoveling the letters out. Letters littered the landscape. A few curious creatures popped up. The machine tried writing again, but something didn't feel right. The machine dragged itself back to the door and out of the cabin. It began collecting its letters. A few intelligent crows helped. Still, the machine had no wheels, and the whole thing took quite a while. It was night before the machine had collected the last envelope. It turned around to return to the cabin when it saw a beautiful sight. A swarm of lightning bugs flew up and out of a berry bush. They illuminated the night sky. Suddenly, the machine got a terrific idea. It blinked its light excitedly as it waved thank you to the disappearing insects. The machine worked through the night and into the following day. By the next evening, the machine had made something wonderful. It carefully lit a match and lighted the hermit's old lantern. The lantern glowed, and as it did, its warm air filled up the machine's creation. An enormous paper lantern made out of the machine's letters rose into the air. The machine watched as the wind carried his letters far off into the horizon. Its light looked no bigger than a lightning bug. Then the machine turned around, went back into the cabin, and began writing again. The end. And there we have it, episode 87, The Lonely Machine. I like that story. Thank you for your patience sitting through this episode because it took some doing. There was a change I wanted to make right now. What was it? Oh, yes. I thought this should look a bit more deflated so that this looks a bit more exciting. There we go. That's it. So thank you so much for joining me today for episode 87 of the Story Stream. I will be back on Friday for episode 88. Until then, take care and be well.